Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and welcome to the next video in our Python Pycharm lesson learn Python thing. Okay, basically what we're going to learn about today is how to write functions and how to use modules. Okay, so the basic idea is a function is a clump of code that you give a name that you can use whenever you want. So you can use it more than once. So it's not unlike looping. Looping, you have to repeatedly use it at the same time. So I can't like do 2 loops now and then 3 loops later. Functions, you can just use them as much as you want, whenever you want. So what we're going to do is in your project folder, we're going to create a new file. So yeah, we're going to create a new file. So a new Python file. And we're going to call this functions.py. Okay. And basically we're going to use this as a way to create functions that we'll use in testing. So first we'll create, that way we learn about modules at the same time. So def is the word to define a function, and then you give the function a name. So we're going to say def add. So we're going to define a function called add, and the add takes 2 numbers, which you can put basically in these parentheses you can pass in what's called, actually even before we do the add one, let's just do something even simpler. Let's go def hello, empty parentheses. So don't worry about what's inside the parentheses right now. Def hello, and all this function does is print hello world. That's all this function does. So we've defined the function in this file, and now I can go back to testing.py, and now I can actually use, what will happen is that when you install packages, you'll be able to import what those packages give you as modules, but also it'll look inside your same folder. So if I go back to testing, oh wait, yeah, there we go, testing. Okay, I'm going to delete everything in testing. And at the top, I'm going to say import, or from functions, so it'll look for a file called functions.py, import hello. Okay. So it'll find that and bring that in there, and now I can use that hello function. Hello. And here I can use it more than once. So I'm going to say hello 3 times. Hello. Hello. And again, whenever you use a function, you do have to give it the parentheses. So even though I'm not going to pass anything into the parentheses, the only way the code knows that the function is being used as a function is the parentheses. It's referred to as invoking. If I didn't have the parentheses, then it's just a variable. It's just a variable that holds the function. So I don't want that. I want to invoke the function. I want to use it. So we're going to invoke that hello function 3 times. Now notice I didn't define the hello function in this file. I imported it from functions. So if I do this, I go testing.py. Let's see if it works. And see, it works. Hello world, hello world, hello world. So what I can do is I can import I can write all my functions in here, and then use them in here, which is not a bad way to do it. Okay, so let's try a different function. Okay, so again, remember those tabs. So def, now we'll do add. So now in the parentheses, we're going to say add, well, it's going to be add, and we're going to want to take 2 numbers. So I can give as many variables as I want in the parentheses. These are parameters. Okay, so usually you want to make them descriptive. So num1 for the first number, and num2 for the second number. And all I really want this to do is print the result of num1 and num2. Okay, we'll see if it does. That might require me to parse some integers, but we'll come back to that. So I'll go back to my testing.py. So again, that's the function there. It's just adding 2 numbers and printing them. So in this case, I want to import add, and we're gonna first add 1 and 2, and we're gonna add 3 and 4, and then we're gonna add 5 and 6. And let's see if that works. And it works, because what it's doing is that I'm passing in these 2 numbers, and it replaces those placeholders in the order that I put them in. So this will become num1, this becomes num2. this becomes num1, this becomes num2 when I run that function. And see, now I can use that same function to do the same thing over and over again, which is nice. The problem is I'm only printing the value, so I can't really do anything with that. What I really like to do is actually get back the number so I can actually do stuff with it. So what I want to do is modify this. Instead of printing num1, num2, what I'm going to want to do is return the value, or every function can return a value. And once it returns a value, the function's done. So watch this. I'm going to put right after the return, print cheese. This will never run, because the minute that function returns a value, it skips everything else. Think of the return is like, I did my job. Really, because the way the function thinks, it's being sent out to go get some information. Once it returns the information you wanted back to you, so I sent it off on a journey with these two pieces of information in its satchel, and it came back to me with this in its satchel, the result of adding those things together. Okay, so now I go back here, and here's the thing, is if I run this code now, you're not going to see anything. See, you didn't see anything. Why? Because we're returning the value, is because returning the value doesn't automatically put it on the screen. And that's what print does. Okay, so if we want to see the result, we need to wrap these in print so we can see the result of what it returned somewhere where we can see it as a human. Okay, parentheses print. Cool. So let's see what happened. Okay, so first it's going to add, which will return 3, and then 3 gets printed. This will return 7, then 7 gets printed. This will return 11, and then 11 gets printed. And see, there you go. Ta-da! It works. And want to make it even more fun is that you can use those return values and do stuff. So what I can do is I can say I want to take the return value of add 1, 2 and add it to the return value of add 3, 4. So first, this is going to resolve. That becomes 3. This becomes 7. And now it becomes 3 and 7. So 3 plus 7 is 10. And then 10 gets printed. So again, it always kind of works inside out. Always go from the parentheses, resolve the parentheses on the inside before you resolve the parentheses on the outside. And there you go. So I get 10. So this becomes more useful. And you can create a function that does anything, okay, and returns you any data. And I can use it as many times as I want. I can use them inside of each other. So let's try that. Okay, so let's do this. So I want to add two numbers. I want to add the result of adding 1, 2. And then I want to add it with the result of adding 3, 4, which just will still result in 10. It's the same things we did before. So what it does, first it resolves this function. That's going to be 3. Then it resolves this function. That's going to be 7. So that technically this now says 3, 7. So then we're going to add 3 and 7, which is 10. And then 10 is left inside print. And so print then prints the 10. And there you go. You see it says 10. Okay. So functions are cool like that. Okay, there's a lot more to functions. Okay. So for example, there's this quargs thing. So let's just show you that real quick. Okay, so let's say you don't know what the arguments are going to be. You kind of. So let's say I do this. Def example. And as the arguments, what I'll do is I'll put quargs. Okay? And what quargs just means is like, it can be as many arguments as you want. There's this variable called quargs that I can grab from. Okay? So let's say we're going to print quargs. And then we're going to pretend that someone passes in something called cheese. And then we're going to say print quargs, meaning keyword arguments. That's what quarg stands for, keyword arguments. Quargs, and then we'll say meat. Okay, so that's what this function does. Okay, it prints out those two arguments assuming that it receives them. Okay, so let me change this. We're going to import example. I could import all those. I could be like, hello, add example, and I'm bringing in all the functions in there. So I'm importing all these functions from functions. And I can even change the name. So I'm going to change example, and I'm going to say, we're going to import example, but I want to import it as stuff. Okay? So now the function is really called stuff for the remainder of the program, because it's really the example function that I just renamed as stuff. And now I pass in arguments, so I have to pass in cheese. And we're going to say cheese equals Gouda. And then I pass in another keyword argument. Meat equals salami. And let's see if I entered that in right. I don't think I did. Let me just think about that. Okay, so this has to not be a string. This has got to be a symbol or a name in a sense. So it's meat equals salami. There we go. So now if I run this, this should just basically do what I wanted it to do and print Gouda salami. And again, you don't have to call it quarks. It's just these two asterisks that make it quark. So I could call it, you know, things, foods, and it just becomes foods. And basically just becomes it becomes a dictionary of any keyword arguments. Cool. And so now let me just rerun this code over here. It should still just pretty much work the same. See? Okay. There are other cool things, but you know, and at the end of the day, you probably won't use a lot of quarks. You may or may not, but I mean, at the end of the day, you can pass in other data types. I could pass in, you know, dictionaries as an argument. I can pass in lists as an argument. So if you really need to grab lots of random data, oftentimes it's just better to assume that to build your function in a way that grabs a list or dictionary and works with a list or dictionary. But you have options on how you create your functions. Yeah. So now we know how to create functions, and we know how to import functions. And it doesn't have to be just functions. You can import variables, anything from another file. So I could sit there and say cheese equals 10. Okay. Then I can go over here and also import cheese. Okay, and then just print cheese. Okay, save. Oh, it's just automatically gonna save. So see, and see, it prints the 10 because it imports it from. So you can import any data from the module. So you just say, hey, this is the module. It looks for a file of that name, functions.py, and then imports all these functions. And yeah, that's sort of a very nice introduction to modules, a very nice introduction to functions and how to use functions. I'll see you guys in the next video.